We have a Chex Mix Rubik's Cube. Promotional item. I looked it up on eBay. You can pick it up for anywhere between like $5 and $50.
Whoa.
And it's a promotional item for Chex. They all said circa 1980s, but I would guess that this is probably actually 1990s. They maybe only think that it's 1980s because the Rubik's Cube itself was invented in the 1980s. It's one of the icons of 1980s culture, and it's the reason why I wanted to do this video with the Deviant Historian, because I think of you as kind of a man out of time.
Yeah.
You're a guy who probably should have lived in the 80s, even though you were born in the early 90s. I actually lived in the 80s. I was a very small child. You actually never even existed in the 1980s. Wow. But I think that you, there are a lot of things about you that are indicative of that time. You're into like that vaporwave type music.
Yeah. You're
kind of like one of those typical second wave millennials who are like, oh man, the 80s, man, I'm nostalgic for an era I never even lived in, man. Because they always say that. They always say like, man, have you ever felt nostalgic about a time you never even experienced? And like that city pop stuff, but like that Japanese style pop music made to sound like 80s Japanese pop and that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not really part of that crowd. But I do appreciate this thing. I picked it up recently. It was an old toy that I had, and I found it. In storage, and this is the only Rubik's Cube I ever owned, and I'm kind of glad. I mean, if I had to own a Rubik's Cube, I'm glad that I owned this one, because you can see it's actually visually interesting. It's not just a bunch of plain colored squares. You have like the Chex and the strawberries and the bananas and the blueberries and the raspberries. It's like interesting to look at. So you have something interesting to look at while you're failing miserably at trying to solve this thing. And I never solved it. And I got to tell you, man, I hate these things. Because like, I don't have the patience for them. It's the same reason I'm not good at chess. It's not that I don't understand how to play chess. I do. It's that I just don't have the patience to sit there and work out in my mind the best possible move to make. I kind of prefer things that are kind of quicker decision, kind of like Tetris and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good at Tetris, but stuff where you have to actually like think really carefully about the next thing you're going to do. Let's see, I got a line of 3 there. And that's what it's so frustrating when you get most of them on one side, but then you're missing 1 or 2, and you have to turn one, and you have to actually kind of go backwards. That's another thing. To be able to solve this thing, you have to be willing to actually like go backwards and like undo some of your progress to get more progress.
Well, I know that'd drive you nuts.
Yes, it would.
Because it's like you with Bob Ross. Like, you're messing it up, man. You're doing a good thing, and now you're putting some lines.
Yeah. It's like you're putting napalm on my happy little trees.
What's interesting, going back to the initial thing there, the Rubik's Cube was invented by a dude in Hungary in 1977, but it really didn't achieve U.S. and worldwide acclaim until it was purchased by another company in the early 1980s, and then it really became a symbol of the 80s.
And before the video, I wondered, like, I mentioned, like, how Eastern Europeans seem to be associated with these, like, mind games. Like, Tetris was invented by a Russian. The Rubik's Cube was invented by a Hungarian. Like, it seems part of their culture that they're known for these, like, sort of mathematically based mind games.
That was all the education we had.
Yes.
It was either farm or math.
Yes.
There is no arts in culture or literature.
In home country, I was surgeon. Now I make Rubik's Cube.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but yeah, this is an aesthetically pleasing one.
Yeah.
In preparing for this video, I watched some Rubik's Cube videos, and they had a whole compilation of like people doing a Rubik's Cube and the Rubik's Cube falling apart.
Huh.
Because like when you make them really big, like this one is just 3 by 3, but some of them are way bigger. Some of them get so big that they really can't hold themselves together.
8 by 8.
Yeah, 8 by 8 or even bigger, and they just they just fall apart like a pile of plastic.
Wow. So I had two growing up.
Yeah?
One of them was a traditional one with the colors palette on it. And then one of them, some family had gotten or whatever, and it was naked women.
Nice.
So those were the two. The naked women one tended to get, it was easier to figure it out. Because the colors, they were all the same, and it's hard to figure that one out. But you really want to use a lot of concentration and make sure it was,
Yeah.
done right with the ladies.
Yeah.
Don't want to disappoint them. So yeah, it was interesting on how those are really great cultural symbols of 80s affluence, aesthetics, and design.
I think I got this one new, and I don't remember where I got it from. But it was obviously some kind of promotional thing. But I remember when I got it, it was all like solved, because when you buy them, they're solved. Generally speaking. Sometimes you can buy ones that are pre-puzzled, but generally I think that they come to you solved. And then I jumbled it myself, and afterwards I ended up really regretting that. Because I knew that I was never going to get it back to the way it was,
Yeah.
But yeah, it just comes down to I just don't have the patience. I think I have the intelligence. I just don't have the patience. There are just certain things I can't sit down and force myself to focus on, particularly when it's just a puzzle that's like when you solve it, it's like all it means is that it's all going to be one color on the same side. It's just hard to place importance on that, but I've seen videos of people doing these with their eyes closed.
Yeah, one of my favorite ladies on Penn and Teller was a woman who was a competitive cuber. Waffle something. Mr. Waffle Breath or something. I don't know what the hell the thing is called that she is. I'll put it in the comments section though. But she was really cool. She really liked math and science and STEM stuff and cubes. She was really in the cubes. I don't remember how it tied into magic, but it was cool.
There's a really good horror movie called The Cube.
Huh.
It's a Canadian horror movie about a bunch of random people stuck in a giant cube that has compartments just like a Rubik's Cube. And they have to use math to determine how to get out of it. And then there's a sequel to it too, but the sequel's not as good.
Do they die, most of them?
Some of them die and some of them don't.
Yeah.
But it's a good one. It's a good. It's probably one of the better horror movies I've seen.
Wow.
But yeah, I think that covers everything. I'm glad that you had some memories to share of Rubik's Cube stuff.
Yeah. I just remember them being frustrating and by the time I grew up, it's like I could play my Game Boy or I could dick around with some cube that I'm pretty indifferent on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing is technology kind of rendered them less fun pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because the 1980s were a time when video games were starting to get really fun. And it's like, hey, do I play Super Mario Brothers, which is a fun and rewarding game, or do I play with this Rubik's Cube and have, days, weeks, maybe even months of misery just to have all the colors be on one side.
When you go complete it, it's just a lot of resentment and annoyance. It just reminds you of something that you never got done. It's like the half-assed, half-done math problem that just haunts you.
And I keep this thing, and I keep it just as I appreciate the thought that went into inventing this and the thought that goes into solving it. And so I kind of keep it just for that. It's like, okay, I have one Rubik's. It's kind of like, you ordered an Optimus Prime today. And it's like, that's going to be your one Optimus Prime, your one and done kind of. That's what this is for me. It's like my one and done Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
And it's decorative, which is nice, and none of the stickers have peeled off. Some of them are not on there that great, but none of them have peeled off, even though this was kept in a not climate-controlled environment for some time. So,
you know what you want to do to finish your Rubik's Cube? You got to peel them off on the right sides and reattach it.
Yeah. That's thinking outside the box. Literally thinking outside the box.
Yep.
But, all right. Well, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. to Captain Unusual for more videos similar to this. And also check out the Diecastinator, which is the Deviant Historians channel.
Yep.
And it's mostly about die-cast vehicles, if you're into that kind of stuff. Because I do a lot of videos about sort of model size stuff, but he focuses squarely on die-cast vehicles.
Or whatever clickbaity BS that I can get views on.
Yeah.
Mostly die-cast.
Yeah.
You got the high class, high caliber guy here, Captain, and then you got like the low class ambulance chasing dude here.
Yeah.
So, but both of the channels are very life enriching, and I'm sure you'd enjoy.
So it's like 90% die-cast, 10% bullshit.
Yep. And then our collaborative videos kind of fit in that middle ground.
Uh-huh.
I'll need to tell you some stuff that's interesting when we're done too. So this was a good video, though. I dig it, and I was surprised by the cube.
Okay, cool, yeah. So anyway, yeah, subscribe and like and comment, and we'll see you in the next video.